everyone, and welcome to Reconcilable Differences. My name is Phillip George Jr.
And I'm Paul Smith, by the way, with On the Move team.
And this is Paul Smith. And we're here. This is going to be part of our special guest series. And our special guest today is Jim Young with Wells Fargo.
All right, so I have a question right off the bat. Okay, what makes this the special guest series?
Jim. Jim is the special guest.
All right, okay. And Jim is our first official special guest.
That is correct, Paul.
All right, welcome,
that is
Jim.
correct.
Welcome, Jim. I couldn't agree more, by the way.
So Jim's going to talk a little bit about our topic today, but first I wanted to say we've been working with Jim for a number of years. Paul, you've been working with him the longest. What I like about Jim is Jim knows. Like, if you call him and ask him a question, he knows the answer. So I like that. So Jim, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you both.
Thank you for coming.
So I've been in mortgage lending for 23, 24 years. I've lost count.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
That's a long time.
I know. I'm old. I'm gray with no hair.
Was that about the time you went into witness protection, by the way, from the state of New York, where you were originally from?
Prior, during, and after.
All right.
Nonetheless, I've seen it.
After all, he is special.
Every time I say I've seen it all, something new always pops up. So it's continuously a game of learning. Joined Wells Fargo 11 and a half years ago, and, writing mortgages nationally, most of them locally. And I'm here to help anybody that needs it.
Good. Do you guys have continuing ed like we do?
Yes, we do.
Oh, do you really? Okay.
Yeah, 3 times a year.
3 times a year? Okay. All right.
Do you remember how you and I first started to interact with one another?
I remember the day.
What?
It's
Was there
seared
a
into his
client?
memory.
No,
What?
I cold called you.
You did?
I did. I said, "Hey, are you looking to team up with a lender?" And you said, "Maybe." And then we agreed to have coffee and
How
we met.
long ago was that?
That was
Was I alive?
about 11 and a half years ago. You were one of my first calls when I started cold calling when I joined Wells Fargo.
Oh, so it was when we were coming off the recession.
Yes.
Interesting.
I had forgotten all about that.
We had coffee and we had a good discussion, and you gave me a shot, which I appreciate, grateful for, and from then on.
Many deals
Yep.
later, we're here.
Yeah.
Many deals later. Yeah.
So today's topic, Jim, is now a good time to buy?
Oh, it's such an important one. So I was listening to a national radio show last week, and they had on a very well-known economist, Stephen Moore, and he made a statement that now's not a good time to buy. With rates at 7, 8%, it makes more sense to rent and wait to buy.
I'm going to say boo to that.
Oh, my blood boiled. My blood boiled. I immediately looked up the phone number to the show and called in. The screener picked up and said, "Well, what's your question? What's your issue?" And I explained it. She's like, "Okay, we definitely want to talk with you." They ran out of time. She called me the next day. She said, "We still want to talk to you. We're going to call you later on." And they said, "If we don't call you, we ran out of time, and we really apologize." So they never ended up calling me. But here's what I was prepared to say. What a mistake. These economists, financial advisors, they look at everything from a top level. They're not in the trenches in the specific industries. Right now is absolutely the time to buy. Here's the reason why. Yes, the rates are higher. That's a detractor for a lot of people, but it's temporary. When the rates come down, and we can talk about rate forecasting and where they're going to be in the next year and a half, you can always refinance at that lower rate, drop your payment. So your high rate is temporary. Buy now, take the current rate, rather than waiting till the rates drop, because when the rates drop, the market is going to be flooded with buyers, even more with very little inventory is going to create bidding situations, overbids, and price values are going to increase.
Like the 2021 market.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
Okay.
So buy the house today for, as an example, $500,000 at a 7% interest rate or whatever the going rate is, or actually in the 6s now, versus waiting, paying $575 at a 6% interest rate or 5.5, whenever they level out to be. Refinance after you purchase the home for $500,000, and then refinance at your 5%, 4.5% rate.
The math works better for the buyer.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
I agree with that, by the way. And so part of the reason for you recommending that is the loss of, you lose the rental money, you don't get any benefit, and you're losing on that appreciation you get in the home if you bought it.
100%.
I agree.
And renting is all rate, as they say, right? And I think there's a meme out there that talks about date the rate, marry the house. You
Yep.
know, so that's good sound advice. right?
I agree.
So going back into buying in this market with the higher interest rates, is it now a good time to buy? Expanding on that, does it make sense to buy down points to get your interest rate better?
This is a crusade that I've been on for the last 2 years. In my opinion, absolutely not. There's very few circumstances where buying discount points makes sense, and we can talk about that. But when you pay discount points or points to buy a lower interest rate, in my opinion, don't do it. Here's the reason why. Your upfront cost to buy the lower rate. The lower rate savings takes a minimum of 3 years to break even with the upfront cost. We're predicting rates are going to normalize maybe as early as end of 2024, more likely within the first half of 2025. Okay. Normalized rate forecast is 30-year fixed, conventional rate, 4.5% to 5%.
So you'll be refining.
You're going to refinance it before that 3 years. Okay. So if you dump that money on day one buying the home and you do refinance within that 3 years, and 3 years is minimum. Typically, it's more so 4 to 5 year period before you even break even.
Okay.
So don't do it.
So the projected normalization of the rate that you just mentioned, 4.5% to 5%, that does actually become a new normal because, the old normal was 3%,
Well,
which was totally uncommon historically. So
you know why that was, though?
Explain.
Okay. Post 2008, our economy was in trouble. One of the best ways to recover an economy is to promote home ownership, people to buy homes.
Mm-hmm. Cheaper money.
So what the government did is started pumping money into the mortgage-backed security market. What that means to a mortgage lender is if it normally takes 3 years to become profitable writing a mortgage loan, it now took a much lesser time. Therefore, we could offer lower rates. So this was all purposefully done. Let's push mortgage rates low.
Interesting.
When people start buying, new homes start being built. And when new homes are being built, it puts the country to work. All the companies that manufacture the materials, the labor to build it, the truckers to ship it. It puts a big portion of the United States back to work, and it helps the economy recover much quicker.
I don't have a stat or a source to back this up, but last time I looked at this, I don't recall. That's why I'm saying you have to tell us out there if you know exactly. But the stat or the thing that I saw was for every house sold, like 3 jobs are created.
I don't know.
Again,
Sounds right.
That may not be true, obviously, exactly the number. But the point is, like Jim is saying, that when you invest into the housing market, when you invest into real estate, good things happen for the economy. Right?
Absolutely.
That's my point.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question about what you were just talking about, Jim, and tying it to interest rates. This includes yourself. There's a lot of smart folks that work on the Wells Fargo side about projections and trying to anticipate the markets and where things are going. All right. I have a question about our specific market in the Triangle area versus other areas of the country, because we seem to sort of be not as hard hit as other areas. And I can say protected, but like our prices really haven't done that much versus perhaps some other areas. So are there any thoughts of what might happen in this area versus others that would be more beneficial to us? Or is what's going to happen to us the same as what's going to happen nationally?
So our head of capital markets that calculates these predictions and forecasts, and I'm not saying this because I'm biased and I work for the company.
He is biased.
I am. They are by far the best in the country. So when this market started turning, all the banks constricted and, they wanted to stop hemorrhaging money that they could in the other environment. So, and Wells Fargo always tends to be ahead of the pack. We make a move, the other banks criticize, 3-4 months later, they're doing the same thing. So we're ahead of the game as far as decision-making of restructuring business in a changing economy and climate.
Is one of the reasons that you're ahead of the game is because of your size and you hold your own paper?
So it helps with our staying power because, all mortgages that banks wrote last year came at a loss. We're fully expecting a loss for all mortgages closed this year, primarily because the amount of time it's going to take to recover and actually turn a profit. Mortgage banks lose money the day they close the mortgage, and it takes time before we start becoming profitable. We're trying to reduce that time period, but we're going to have a refinance event in the next year going into 2025 for everybody that got a mortgage the last couple of years. So all the mortgages we wrote over last year or this year are going to be short-term loans. We're going to lose money on those. From a capital standpoint, we can take that hit. Where what can't take a hit are some of the smaller companies, the brokers that are not as well capitalized as we are, and the feds are trying to put guidelines in place to have these smaller companies require a higher capitalization rate because they're fully anticipating a refinance event, and it could put a lot of companies out of business.
Wow.
That's an interesting and a valuable information to have. What you just described about banks, maybe the smaller entities not as solid as someone like Wells Fargo. That's exactly what we're seeing in the real estate industry. Not to push EXP, but I'm gonna push EXP. EXP has no debt. And EXP is one of the few companies, especially on a national level, that made money in 2022, and we're on that route in 2023. A lot of the older legacy franchises, if you will, and you know who those are, they're losing money in big ways, and you can't sustain that for any length of time, especially to your shareholders. So yeah, again, we're in the same boat in some respects because our industry is heavy on real estate, obviously. But that's good. That's all good information.
Back to answering your question, our specific area.
Yeah.
Okay, so our head of capital markets, forecasting departments, all those. Wells Fargo does forecasting predictions for regions around the United States every year. So we're in the Southeast Division. We are forecasted to grow. So backing up, one of the things we did and I'm sorry if I'm getting off in tangents here and talking about things,
it's all
but
good. Feel
This
free.
is
But-
great information
all
for the
good.
buying public, our clients, our buyers, and agents that want to join our team
Yeah.
to know that we have an expert source like this right here at the ready. Go ahead.
So, when the market turned, we're anticipating losses. Wells Fargo was one of the first to start consolidating and removing markets that we were in to cut overhead cost.
Interesting.
Okay. So, our population of loan officers and processors and underwriters is significantly lower than what it was a year and a half, 2-3 years ago.
Just a little behind the scenes here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
This is
then
how you make the donuts, right?
This is
It's how you survive.
all public information.
Yeah.
And Wells Fargo was the first to start reducing costs.
Okay.
And we got criticism for it. And guess who followed? Everybody else.
Yeah,
Okay.
that 3 to 4 months you were talking about before, folks fell in line with what Wells Fargo was doing.
Yeah. So one of the regions that they didn't cut was our area. Why? Because we know it's going to be a high traffic area. It's going to be a busy market. With the industry that's moving in here, people vacating California, New York, I'm taking applications from these people every week.
Yeah.
They're getting out of those states.
We talked about this in another episode about how many people were actually coming
Yeah.
to the Triangle area.
Yeah.
I mean, think of it. Relatively, if you look at Raleigh categorized as a large city, compared to other large cities across the U.S., our housing prices still have a lot of room to go up.
Yes. Yes.
Okay? What happened is, prior to 4 years ago, our housing prices were, in my opinion, significantly undervalued. And then Raleigh put on big boy pants, and all of a sudden our housing market price caught up real quick.
Yeah.
And that was a shock to our system. We're starting to normalize into that price point at this point. But next year when those rates drop, I feel strongly that we have a ton more room for a $500,000 home to easily reach $575,000, $600,000 in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah. One of our teammates, Diane, has said this often. She believes that our market is has been undervalued for years.
Yeah.
and so I think we're seeing that, and you kind of just verified that a little bit.
Yeah, the multiple listing service, TMLS, they're doing a quarterly presentation, if you will, a podcast. Matt Fowler is the one that does it, and he does it with a lot of area experts. And I believe the first one that they did, which it might have been October, November timeframe, they brought up this fact. We are in a housing shortage situation and have been for years in this area, and we just can't keep pace. That's what's driving prices up, as you were just describing. And the comment was made that there's only two solutions to how strong the market is in this area. A severe economic debacle, which no one wants, all right? And I'm not talking about what we're experiencing right now, but something severe like we experienced, say, the
An actual
2008
recession.
time frame. Yeah. Or, we don't want to use that word.
No one wants that. Yeah.
Or we build more houses because it's supply and demand. It's your classic supply and demand, going back to things being undervalued. Can you share approximately what the average house mortgage or purchase that you guys do, just out of curiosity, in this area? Is that secret privilege Wells Fargo information?
I mean, that's, I was actually just looking up that data for various counties across North Carolina. I think Wake County is around 525,000.
That's,
I remember right.
That's above the median price in Wake County right
Yeah.
now, which was 433.
Yeah.
The last stat. Yeah.
And Harnett County is just exceeded 400,000.
And the thing, when
It
we,
was 396, it's now 402.
when we had this conversation 4 years ago about the median sales price, we were talking about a sales price that was like below 200,000 or not that much different.
Yeah.
So it has really gone crazy.
It has. And I think based on what you're saying, there's room to go up more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have another question though about that.
Okay.
All right. Whatever happened to affordable housing?
That's a big problem in our area
Yes.
right now. So, especially with the higher rates, there's a lot of people that cannot qualify for a mortgage. So there's a lot of,
Yeah. How do we help them?
it's hard because putting in affordable housing in the immediate area, say Wake County, well, land costs have gone up so much. How do they buy the land to make affordable housing? Because the land cost is now prohibiting constructing affordable homes.
Yeah, because they don't make it anymore.
Yeah,
Except in Hawaii.
Best use. Hey, listen, it's somebody who owns the land wants to make the most profit they can out of it.
Yeah. So I think we might start seeing more condo developments, helping keep
To
the cost down.
maximize.
Yeah, to maximize space, maybe some smaller square footage.
Have you seen condo prices in Cary lately?
That's funny. Hey, well, again, I think this is all great information, Jim. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, do you have any tips to buyers for just a smooth transaction?
Yeah, for sure.
Besides, obviously, use Phillip or I.
I don't recommend it. No,
That's it.
you're dealing with peer professionals.
That's awesome.
That's why we work together. So, one, you cannot get pre-approved too soon. Be very careful of the loan officer that you're working with. Unfortunately, in our industry, a very small percentage of mortgage loan officers are true professionals. The pre-approval that's generated is as good as the data that's put into the application. So a good professional loan officer will ensure that your initial application is true and accurate, therefore giving validity to the pre-approval, not so when you make an offer that you're not putting yourself at financial risk.
You know what I often say, Jim, to piggyback on what you're saying,
Yeah.
is I tell my clients before they talk to lenders to be 100% honest with you. If there's no one else you're going to be honest with your loan officer. And I don't mean that you're going to tell a lie about something, but people often round up. You know, I make $40,000 a year when in actuality they make $37,500. That's important information because it comes back to your debt to income ratio. It comes back to all that stuff, right?
100%, and I promise you, we're going to find out.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
And again, it's going to cost you money if you're not. You
Yeah.
know, right? If you're not clear and precise is what I'd like to say. And then the other thing I always like to say is, and I've had this a real world example, I tell people, don't take out any new credit. Don't go make any purchases without talking to your loan officer. Do you agree with that?
Yes. All right. So if your home is by far,
And even if you're well qualified.
even if you're well qualified, your home is going to be probably the biggest investment that most people make. So protect that buying process. Don't incur new debt. Do nothing with your credit. Don't apply for any new credit cards. Do absolutely nothing. Once you buy your home, then you're free to go.
Yeah, I like that. I have a real world.
advice.
I have a real world example, but I'm not gonna get into that. Just it suffices to say, if you want to hear a horror story, talk to a lender and talk to a realtor because we'll be able to tell you those types of things. With that being said, just listen to the advice. For example, Jim knows lending. We know real estate. Your dentist knows how to pull the teeth. You know. Don't go to your dentist asking about the market. That doesn't help. You know, talk to the professionals, trust and listen to them and follow their advice. It's going to save you time, effort, and money. Fair enough?
Working with a professional realtor and a professional mortgage provider versus missing one of those pieces is the difference between your closing being joyful and, boy, that was easier than I thought, versus I'll never do this again. I'm never buying another home.
The other thing I would say, and you guys chime in and if you agree or disagree, the thing that you can do as a buyer is to help with the process is, and I think this is important to make sure you understand this, that any delay in you getting documents and necessary information to your lender can have an effect in your overall transaction. It could delay closing, it could be anything. So when they ask you for stuff, be responsive, communicate. It's going to help you and save you time, effort, and money.
Yeah.
Fair enough, right? Yeah.
Yep, that's a good point.
Anything else you'd like to add, Jim, to this topic? So it is a good time to buy.
It's a fantastic time to buy conventional loans, minimum 3% down payment. VA, if you're a veteran, 100% financing. A lot of people actually are under the assumption that if I want to buy a home, I have to put down 20%.
Yeah, that's not true.
Not the case, 3%.
Interesting.
That's why you need to talk to a mortgage lender and get pre-approved.
That's your very first
Find
step.
out what your options are.
Correct.
It's your unless you're paying cash, your very first step in buying a home is how are you going to pay for it. And I tell everybody, get your pre-approval. Like you said in the beginning, it's never too early to get your pre-approval, and it tells you your price point. For example, if you're pre-approved for $300,000, then everything up to $300,000 is available to you. So then you can really try to find the right house and maximize what you get out of that home inside your $300,000 pre-approval, for example. But with that being said, we really do appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
It's been a
I'm grateful
pleasure.
to be here. Thank you.
And if it's okay, Jim will be happy to talk to you. If you want a pre-approval, start with Jim. We'll put his contact information out there on the post.
Yep, there'll be a description on the post.
That's right. It's in
with,
the description, right?
With Jim's contact information. Feel free to reach
We'll
out to Jim.
we'll
We
describe
appreciate it.
politely
Also,
and nicely.
don't forget to subscribe and like. And, so that I don't make this mistake, reconcilable differences, special guest session.
Series.
Sorry, special guest
Special
series.
guest
I'll get it
series.
right the next time.
And this is our first one, Jim Young with Wells Fargo.
There can never be another first.
That's right.
Jim will be the first.
I was your first.
Yep.
We might have to cut some of this. You got to close.
By the way, good selling.